You are sitting next to him, Tinker said softly. For me, he added. I turned to look into Benny's yellow eye. Benny, I whispered. Think about it, Sylvia, said Tinker. Think about it. Tinker kept looking at me. Suddenly, the sun came from behind a cloud. It was overhead, getting too hot for Molly. I got up to say goodbye. Benny never moved. I walked down the steps, Tinker following me. Before I left, I suddenly hugged Tinker. No one hugs me, he said, looking startled. I do, I said. I got it on Molly. Come again, said Tinker. I will. And as I rode off, Tinker called to me. Think about it, Sylvia. You must know. For some reason, as I rode off, I felt the tears at the edge of my eyes. What was it I almost knew? Molly and I went past the sheep meadow, past the woods, and down the hill again, the main road through town. It was hot and it was sorry. I'd waited so long to ride Molly home, even though Tinker had given her a pail of water. We rode closer to a car parked by the nature walk. The car windows were closed in the heat, except for the back windows, only open an inch. I heard a noise. A dog was barking weakly. Inside the car, watching as I came closer, it was too hot for the dog, I could tell. I slid off Molly and tried to open the doors one by one, but the car was locked. The dog noses the open window and the wind. I could see he was having trouble breathing. I ran down the walking path and called loudly. Whose car is it? Is this? There is a dog inside and it is too hot. Hey! I ran back up the path and I moved Molly to a tree where there was a shade. I picked up a rock and tried to break a window. The rock bounced off the window. The dog, a border collie, pulled at the window. I tried the rock again. The dog lay down on the back seat of the car, breathing hard. I took out I took out my cell phone. I dialed Bud's number. He answered on the first ring. I started crying. Bud, I need help. Dog locked in a hot car. I can't break the windows. Where? Nature walk. I'm coming. Before he hung up, I heard his siren through the phone. I looked for a bigger rock. I found one too large to move, and my tears dropped on it as I tried to pry it loose. I heard the sound of a bird's siren then, and I knew he was driving very fast. I could see the dome light turning. He drove behind the car and slid to a stop. He got out quickly, carrying a heavy iron bar. He looked very angry. Try to get the dog in other window so I can break this one over here, he said. I felt breathless. I spoke to the dog through the small space. Hey, Pa, Buzz here. The dog turned and slowly came over to my side. He was panting. Wood crashed the driver's side window, and glass flew across the front seat. He reached in and unlocked the door. I opened my door, and the dog licked my face and slowly jumped down the ground to the ground. He lay down, and I sat the ground next to him, stroking his soft fur. Bob went to his car and hurried back into a bottle of water and a bowl. Here now, his voice was like a whisper. He poured water into the bowl, and the dog got up and drank and drank. He finished it, and then he walked over the lean against the but who was just sitting on the ground too. Hey, what are you doing? A man with a fishing rod stood by his car. Bud stood very tall in his everyday clothes, jeans, and a plain white shirt. The dog stayed next to him. I think the question is, what are you doing leaving a dog in a hot car? Rascal, is okay? Come, rascal. The dog didn't move from Buddy's side. And you broke my window, the man yelled. The dog was not all right. I said suddenly, how would you have died in a heat? And that is against the law. You were just a kid, said the man. Let me introduce myself, said Bud. He held out his sheriff's badge. I am Sheriff Rodolph, and I broke your window to saw the dog. May I see your driver's license, please? The man pulled his wallet out of his pocket. He handed Bud his license. Bud wrote down the information in his notebook. Thank you, Richard. And may I please see your fishing license? The man took a step backward. I don't, he began, have one, finished Bud. And you do not have a dog either. We don't mistreat animals here. You can't do that, said the man. I can, and I did. Move along now. The man stared at Bud for a moment. But before you go, must confiscate your fishing equipment as well, said Bud. It's the law. Bud held out his hand and the man handed over his fishing rod. He quickly opened the door, got in, and drove away. Do you think he knows he's sitting on broken glass? I asked. Not yet, said Bud. We heard the screeching of brakes. Now he knows, said Bud. Well, Pa, you are my dog now, said Bud. Rascal is a dumb name for you, and Sylvia named you Pa. Pa wagged his tail. Bud looked at me. Good job, Sylvia, he said in his soft voice. All right then, come on, Pa. It's Mrs. Rudolph's birthday. I can't wait to show her what I got her. He opened the trunk and put the fishing rod inside. Maybe I give Mrs. Rudolph the fishing rod as well. Without a pause, Paul jumped in the back seat of a bird's car. Bert smiled at me as Paul leaned over and licked his ear. And as he drove off, I could see two heads close together inside the car, Bert and his dog. Alrighty then, I said to Molly as he headed home. She liked it when I talked to her. I thought about Tinker and Benny. Thought about Bunny and Paul. I almost knew. Something. What was it? A breeze came up and blew my thought away. It was the end of my day. Find a yellow-eyed friend to look into your eyes. Find a white blue-eyed friend to hug. Sylvia Bloom. Is there a wood for today? Amen. Breaks the glass of a hot car, saving a dog so they can care for one another. The wood is live. Sylvia Bloom. In the night, I woke from sleep with a sudden sharp memory of the thought a breeze had taken away. Tinker had told me I almost knew. The look of a bird finding his dog, the look of Tinker with a Bunny family. Was it family that was enough for my mother? Do I deserve this? I turn on the light. Am I enough? I am surprised to hear myself say it aloud in the quick dark. I leave the light on. When I wake in the morning, the light has been turned off by somebody. 8. A sweet thing. A sweet thing. Butter picked me up in the sheriff's car with Paul sitting proudly in the back seat. I saw that the last half had been stuck back onto the door. It now read the sheriff. I pointed to it as I walked to the car. Paul dug it out from under my driver's seat. But said he also found my favorite slippers under the bed and chewed on them. I laughed. So did Bud. Paul loves you and your smell. You rescued him. Bud said. I reached in the back window and gave Paul a hug. Maybe I'll grow up to be a sheriff, I said. Bud smiled at me. You will grow up to be an observer of life and a great writer, he said. In the back seat, there were 2 large bottles of water, a bowl, a bag of dog snacks, and a paper bag that I knew had donuts in it. Paul looks happy. He did Mrs. Rudolph like him as her birthday present. Well, it was smart of me to buy her flowers and a bracelet as well, he said. Except that I caught her slipping paw food under the table as we ate. Remind her of that. Whenever she lectured your class about sneaky behavior, she had just stuffed her. I said, but started the car. Alrighty then, he said briskly. Paul made a noise and stuck his head between the two of us. When I turned my head, we were looking into each other's eyes. Eyes again. Paul's eyes are different. One eye is dark, one blue. I told Bud. I said that, Bud. Yes. There's something you should know. What is that? I took a deep breath. The other day, before I found Paul in car, I visited Tinker and his coyote Bunny is his family. He lives with him. And I sat very close to him and I looked into his eyes. I figured all that said about yellow eyes, right? Yes, after you look, I had 3 calls from teenagers asking about where they could find yellow-eyed girls. I laughed. I'm trying to protect Tinker privacy, said Bird. I figured townspeople would be curious, and Tinker's a private person. Yellow eyes with marble in the center, I said. I know. Do you know everything about everyone in town? I asked. Yes. Do you know I want a donut now? Yes, I said, but I know that. We drove down the dirt road between the meadows. Bud looked out the window and I knew he was looking for my mother. She's singing to the kitchen chickens. The magic flute. Of course, they are addicted to the magic flute. Addicted to chickens? Really? Bert said, pretending to be alarmed. He stopped the car to listen to her voice coming across the meadow. Paul went over to the open window and heard too. Paul sniffed. Then he lifted his head and began to howl. I burst out laughing. Way off, I saw my mother straighten up and stop singing. She looked around. Bud drove off quickly. He had a shocked look on his face. We slowed down at the beans cornfield. There was a small chorus of singers today. The crowds were still there. Bud began to roll up Paul's window with a button on his door in case Paul howled again. It was too late. Paul howled and the dark clouds of crowds flew up and away. Could Paul be the solution, do you think? Bud asked. Not according to my father, and you'd have to leave Paul with Elma. But Bud shook his head. He's my dog. I knew he'd say that. Maybe you could leave Paul during the day and take him home at night, I suggested. Nope. Paul likes riding in the sheriff's car. I knew he'd say that too. We drove past the river and past the sheep and cow meadows, all peaceful. Not any excitement today, I said, yawning. Wrong, said Roger, speeding up the car. Up the road, Map Tilly was frantically waving her arms at Bud. near the fence where she stood with donkey and a goat, but stopped the car and got out. Mup, what's wrong here? Mup burst into tears. I fed the donkey a large carrot and he's choking. The donkey was having trouble breathing, and his goat friend leaned against him. Mup fell into Bird's arms and nearly knocked him over. Mup was very large. Let's call your vet, said Bird. No, I called from the car, sliding over and getting out Bird's side. This once happened to me when I fed Molly at a carrot. The donkey was wheezing now. I reached over and stroked his long neck down firmly with one hand over and over, holding up his head with the other hand. I did it again and again, and finally there was a sudden breath from the donkey. Of course, oh dear, Sylvia, cried Mup, moving toward me. I stayed with the donkey to keep Mup away. I worried she would knock me over. And then the donkey put his head down next to my cheek and stayed there breathing again. I reached out and patted him. It was a strange feeling. This warm donkey had so close. My burst into tears again, but I kept hugging the donkey. I preferred the donkey to Map. I admitted to Bud in the car. Bud grinned. I was nearly overcome by myself. Nice work, Sylvia. I keep saying that to you, said Bud. My mother said we learn from our mistakes, I said. Like the two large carrots I fed Molly once. Sylvia, the philosopher, said Bud. Then we don't have to make the same mistake again, right? Bud, the philosopher, said. Paul barked from the back seat and put his face between us. Paul, the philosopher, Bud and I sat at the same time laughing our way home. Will, a barking dog, scared the crowds away only for a moment's time, and the crowd clouded its back. A dog cannot bark forever, though he may try. Sylvia Blum. A sweet thing. Saving Mop's donkey's life is a sweet thing. A donkey's head against your cheek, saying thank you, Sylvia Blum. 9. Past and present. I woke in the night shivering, and I pulled the quilt around me even though the night was warm. Outside my window were stars and a big moon. My father called it a strawberry moon because some believe it is time for their fruit to ripen. In the morning, I had a headache and sore throat. I could hear my mother in the shower doing her scales up and down and up and down again, up and down again. Then arpeggios and drills. I padded down the hallway and found Nate and my father sitting in there. My father put his cool hand on my head. You sick, Sylvia? You are very warm. No work for you today, I'm afraid. No, I'm not writing with Bud. He had to go to court. I hope there's no crime while he's gone, said Nate with a grin. And then my mother began a new song. I leaned my head back against the wall. My mother's performance posters would have called it lyrical and moving. Lyrical and moving. French serenade. Pleasure, pleasure d'amour, said my father, smiling. The pleasure of love. He listened for a moment. That was the very first song your mother sang to me when we met. He closed his eyes, and I thought about my parents before Nate and I arrived to clutter up their lives. My father began singing so softly along with my mother, only Nate and I could hear. My love loves me, a world of wonder I see. He looked at me with a shy look. I can't sing like you, mother. It doesn't matter, said Nate in his wise old man voice, and I had a sudden thought that everything they said I should be saying. I was older and I should be wiser. My mother surprised us all by opening the door suddenly and catching us listening. I sang that for you, she said to me, to my father. My father smiled at her standing there. Wrapped in her bath towel, her hair still wet. Thank you, mean, but I've noticed the cows love it too. They do, said my mother. I think they've been producing more milk. Have you noticed it? My mother and father looked at each other. It was as if Nate and I were not there, listening to them and watching them be romantic right in front of us. Nate broke the silence. Maybe you should hire yourself out to dairy farmers all around the town, he said. My mother and father laughed a lot. I'm going back to bed, I said grumpily, leaving them laughing in the hallway. I slept until afternoon, dreaming unwanted dreams of dancing and singing and people being romantic. My mother came in with some soup and a thermometer. She popped the thermometer on my tongue. She brushed back my hair to feel my forehead. You are over 102 degrees. Sylvia, I'm calling Dr. Brick to see what he says. Oh no, I don't want to be sick, I said. I know. Let's see that Britt has to say. I had to smile. My mother secretly called Dr. Britt pretty because he had a huge mop of black hair in that he oiled. I'll get better without pretty hour, said. My mother put her cool lips on my forehead for a moment and then went away. I woke to find Nate sitting on my bed, staring at me. Hi, Nate. You okay? I'll be fine. The sheriff came by on his way home from Suriname and brought you something. Nate handed me a newspaper. It's marked, he said, as mother's name in the article. I read the article out loud. James Garrison climbed tenor is coming to sing on June 28th in the Sherine Concert Hall. Mr. Garrison has performed in halls over Europe and in America, once singing with the soprano Melinda May. Now Melinda Bloom of Casper, Wyoming. James sent the tickets, said Nate. That's 3 days from now. I said I forgot it was coming up soon. I had a strange feeling between excitement and dread. Maybe it was because I was sick. Maybe not. Maybe she will want to go back to singing outstage. I said slowly. I thought about that concert poster upstairs in the attic, the one of James Garrison and my mother on stage in London or Paris. Maybe wrong. Huh, of course not. She will see an old friend from the past, said Nate, excited. I looked at Nate. How come you are so different than I am? I asked, not expecting an answer. You have preconceived notions, said Nate. I don't. I was so startled I could hardly talk. What do you know about preconceived notions? You are only 8, soon to be 9. Mr. Hurley taught us at the school that if we have a preconceived notions, it often keeps us from the truth. The truth. Maybe it is your truth and the mother's truth all mixed up in your head, said Nate. I put the newspaper down on the bed and stared at Nate for long. He finally said, wait. I could only shake my head because I had no words. I stared more at Nate. Get the poster from the attic for me, Nate, please, I whispered. And that was when I started coughing and had trouble breathing. 10. Time to say goodbye. Dr. Breed and his shining hair had come and gone. I think another day went by, then another. He left medicine and inhaler to help me breathe and promise to come the next day. Pneumonia, lamb chop, he said to me. His oiled hair bounced the sunlight from the window across the walls of the room. You have to stay in bed for at least 3 solid days, maybe more. I wondered what 3 solid days mean until I remembered. I have a concert to go tomorrow, I said, my voice sounding far away to me. I tried to sit up in bed but couldn't. Dr. Bridge shook his head. Nope, lots of water and lots of sleep, he told my mother and father. Dr. Bridge and my mother went downstairs. My father sat on my bed while My captive, I will always tell you about the secret lives of crows, he said. But what about the concert? My father lifted his shoulders in a shrug. What? Your mother and I will talk about it. There was a purse. Someone will stay with you. You can stay with me, I said. Mother and Nate can go. Mother, my father was quiet. There was something he didn't want to say. All right then, he said, imitating Bard, the secret life of crows. And he began to talk about crows. They feel grief. They gathered when one dies. They have deep family ties. They know the face of the human they like. My eyes closed, and then I heard there was a small girl who fed the crows peanuts and the food she had left over. In turns, the crows brought her small, shiny gifts of bees and other objects. I heard everything he said, like lullaby song to a sleepy child, and later I would remember it all. In the evening after Nate brought me soup, I heard my mother singing in the bathroom. It was far away from me, but I could hear her sing pleasure d'amour. Then she began a song I remembered somehow. I heard her sing it to the cows once, calling them in for evening milking. Cante parlo. It's a duet. She had said for two voices. I turned on my light and leaned over to see the poster of my mother and James Grayson. It was written there, Cante Padro, time to say goodbye. I got up very slowly. The first time I'd been out of bed for 2 days or three. I turned on my desk light, took out a blank sheet of paper, and wrote something for my log. I wrote for a while, then put the paper into my drawer to give to my father tomorrow morning. He'd give it to Bud. I missed the bird and part. Then I took out another piece of paper and wrote, I wonder if it's my fault that mother doesn't sing on stage anymore. The cows and sheep and chickens and goats keep her here. Mostly Nate and I keep her here. When I finished, I was just so tired. I lay down and peeled the quilt over me. I don't remember falling asleep. I never heard my mother and father come in to say good night. Once I heard a rustle and looked up to see Nate sitting on my desk chair. I raised my head, but I was too tired and sick to talk to him. 11. The secret life of Crowley. Secret life. I woke up early, feeling better. I wasn't coughing, and my chest didn't feel so heavy. When I walked to the window, I saw our truck driving off between the two windows. I couldn't see who drove the truck. It was too far away. I looked at my calendar, and suddenly the heavy feeling was back. It was a concert today. Mother and Nate were in the truck, and they wouldn't be back until evening. The page I wrote in the night was not on my desk. I looked around but couldn't find it. The window had been opened the warm night. Maybe the breeze moved it. The door behind me opened as I looked under my desk. My father, I saw them leave, I said, turning. But it was my mother who stood there, a glass of juice for me in her hand. You is all I could say. Me, she said. I sat on the bed and stared at her. Father and Nathan left without you. That wasn't my plan, I said. She smiled at me. Maybe not your plan, but it was always mine. She sat beside me on the bed and handed me the juice. Was your father angry? I asked. It doesn't matter, she said. That sounded like something Ned would say, I said. Oh no, said my mother happily, and instead of crying, which I felt like doing, we both laughed. She handed me my pills. I stayed because I'm your mother and you are more important than a concert. She stood up and looked out the window. Beside, she said with a faraway look, I get letters from James all the time about where he's singing. You do? She nodded. And the truth of it is every day I hear his tenor voice in my ear. He's always close by. You are past Nate called it, I said, and so did you. It was quiet then. Then Mother put up the window a bit. Here comes a bird, she said. You want a visitor? I said. I do, I said. Mother smiled and I knew why I sounded like bird. All right then, she said, making me laugh as she went downstairs to see Bird. Bird and Paula lived in my room together. Pie jumped up on my bed and licking my face. I've missed you, I said, both of you. We've missed you too, said Bird, sitting on my desk chair. Crime is on the upswing. It is not, I said, laughing. Tinker asked how you are. He said that the log was no longer interesting. No, he didn't. No, but you was thinking it. You sound just like. I know, said Bud, waving his arms to Mr. Rudolph. I'll be back in a few days, I said. Good, the crowds are still there. But, yes, reaching into my desk drawer, I have an important log for you. Bud opened the drawer and took out my paper. He read it. Oh my, he said. Oh my, your father told you this? He did. Bud stood up. Come on, Paul. We have just enough time to get this in the afternoon paper. Paul jumped off the bed and followed Bud to the door. Oh my, said Bud again. Before he left, I slept again. I dreamed of crowds. The afternoon newspaper came and my mother left it on my bed as I slept. The kindness of crowds. Someone I knew taught me the secret lives of crowds and a child who fed them. Crowds left her shiny beads and stones and tiny bones. It was a bargain, gift of joy. Sylvia Bloom. It was dusk when I woke. I could hear my mother singing Pleasure d'amour to the cows as they hurried after her from the field to the barn. Far off, I could see the dust rise from the tires of my father's truck, but the light did not let me see him and my brother inside of the truck. I put my jeans and slowly walked down the hallway and down the stairs to kitchen. I looked out the door to see Nate climb out the back seat. My father got out and waved to me. Who's in the front seat? A hitchhiker? We had them on our road. Everyone picked up everyone they saw. My mother sang in the barn, and a tall man got out of the front seat. I shaded my eyes against the late setting sun. Then I opened the door and went outside the first time in days. The man looked familiar, and then I knew because of the concert poster with his picture there. James had come to here. He walked into the barn and we suddenly heard two voices singing, my mother and James Grayson. My father came and put his arm around me. No words. Slowly we walked to the barn door and inside. They stood along the back wall. And we all listened, and the cows stood starring, hearing two voices for the first time. When they finished the song, they began as I knew they would contemporary. I looked up at my father and he bent down closer to the he could hear me. You did this, I asked as softly as I could. My father shook his head. He pointed to Nate. Nate did this? No one spoke then. No cow moved as they did most days. The cows stood and listened. We stood and listened. Voices filled the barn. We sat in the kitchen and the sun had set. Though there was a light outside, Beth had taken a liking to James. James sat with his long legs out, like Tinker, with his hand on Beth's head. His voice was musical, even when he spoke. I wanted to ask him if he could sing. You are my buddy, my pal, my friend, like Willie Nelson, but I didn't know him well enough. James looked at me. You are very much like your mother, he said. You wrote about the things you care about. Would you get things to know? Would you want to know? And what makes you afraid? You know more than you think you know. I was quiet. Tinker had once said the same thing in his own way. Your mother was wiser than she knows too. Nate sat down across from me. James didn't read the page you wrote. About mother not singing on stage anymore being your fault. He said he didn't want to read anything that wasn't too mean for him. Nate, you looked at from my desk, I said. I could feel my cheeks blushing. Yes, sir. And I told him what you wrote, said Nate. I'm only 8, soon to be 9. Remember, so I can do this. This made mother and father and James laugh. Nate is wise like your father, said James. Why would your mother want to sing on stage, travel away from you when she has the largest audience in the world? The farm, the prairie, the sky, the birds, sheep and goats, pigs and cows, the moon and you. James was sometimes overly dramatic on stage, said my mother with a silly smile. Silly smile. See, I did some pretty swell dying scenes, James said. And I met my wife, Lily, by winking at her in front row of the concert hall. In our loved scene, mother reminded him. I was reprimanded for that, he admitted, and sent for acting lessons. But Lily, and I'm married and now have 6 children. 6, said mother. Yes, a new boy named Reynard, which is French for fox, said my father. James smiled at my father. So is my intelligent lecturer. My mother laughed. You did very well, James Leonard Ford. But am I right? He asked, suddenly serious. You are very right, said my mother. My father got up and poured more coffee into James' cup. James tapped the newspaper with my crow lock. Your mother bring gifts like the crows, he said softly. I had a sudden memory of a baby in the car telling me my mother brought him great joy. Life is simple. We silly humans try to make it complicated and Confucius said that better. And your father is a hero for knowing it all along. My mother leaned over and kissed my father on the cheek. One of the many reasons I married him, she said. Plus, he taught me the Texas two-step. That was much harder than falling in love with Jack. James peered at me. Any question? He asked. I thought. Were you and my mother boyfriend and girlfriend back then? I asked. James smiled at my mother. Only on stage, he said softly. We were in love on stage. James tapped my hand. The difference between your mother and me is that I love performing. Your mother loves singing wherever she is. Nate smiled at me. Any other questions? Asked James. Yes, I said. Can you sing Willie Nelson? My mother and father laughed. She asked me that once, said my mother, And what did you say? Asked James. I said yes, said my mother. And she and my father got up and began singing and dancing in the kitchen. You are my buddy, my pal, my friend. You'll be that way until the end. And wherever you go, I wanted you to know you are my buddy, my pal, my friend. Suddenly, the door swung open and the bird stood there. The room went quiet, but didn't seem to notice. Sylvia, said the bird, after they read your log, the townspeople are lining the side of Elmore cornfield with bits of bread and peanuts, even cashews for the crowds, pancakes too, and several crossings were seen. Bud looked at James. I'm Bud, the sheriff, he said. Am I Am I to assume you will be singing to the crows and the sheep tomorrow morning hour? Said James. And the pigs, not the magic flute to the chickens, said Bud. Never, said James, making my mother laugh. James leaned down to whisper in my ear, I think I'd like to live here forever. I looked at him and surprised myself. Me too, I said. Today, two voices right. The wind over meadows. Today, the crows eat sweet cakes. And leave seven shiny bees, leaving the corn the elmo. A deal is made. Life is simple, just a dance. Sylvia Bloom.